All right, welcome everybody. I'm so excited to have Alicia Katz Pollock here today to share with us some amazing QuickBooks Online hacks. So Alicia, I'm just going to turn it right over to you so that we have the maximum amount of time for you to share these gems and tips, plus some of the other information that you have for us.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me. I've been really impressed by what Alicia is putting together with the Grove, and I'm really excited to be invited to participate. So thanks for having me. So let's talk about QuickBooks Online hacks. This is one of my favorite topics, and I'm really excited that so many of you are here to check it out. So a little bit about me while everybody is coming on. My name is Alicia Katz Pollock, and I will be your tour guide for today. I have a master's in teaching, and I was supposed to be a 7th grade English teacher, but I got there and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And I started teaching adults instead, and then everything kind of migrated over to teaching QuickBooks, and I couldn't be happier because everybody is here because they want to be here, as opposed to 13-year-olds learning English when they're there because they have to be there. I am a member of Intuit's Trainer Writer Network, and so if you do any of Intuit's free trainings through QuickBooks, QBTrainingEvents.com, I'm either one of the speakers, one of the elves behind the scenes. I also speak regularly at QuickBooks Connect and Scaling New Heights, and so for any of you going to QuickBooks Connect coming up in a couple weeks, I'll see you there. I am also the author of several QuickBooks textbooks that if you not Google my name, if you go to Amazon and search for my name, a bunch of different books come out, everything from quick start guides to college textbooks. And I was a 2021 top 10 pro advisor from Insightful Accountant. But that's enough about me. Let's get to why you are here. So what I want to do is talk about QBO hacks. And so hacks are either tips and tricks that streamline your workflow, or they're workarounds for common situations. A lot of the time they involve automation. A lot of the time they involve just clicking on that little button that you never took the time to click on and didn't know what it does. So I kind of show you a lot of ins and outs of things. And my whole goal is to save you time, that if one of these trick saves you just a couple seconds, but you use it all day long, then it really begins to add up. And so I hate doing things twice. I love streamlined direct routes. And so what we're about to do for this next hour is a collection of my hot tips, or because our logo is an owl, we call them the hoot tips, and just the things that I found that make life easier. And so in our agenda, I'm going to go down some interface tricks, some Chrome tricks, some bank feed options, some sorting and filtering hacks. We'll talk about some fancy uses for recurring transactions, some automated emails that you could use, and also some backdoor links that are not on the menu that are indispensable that you can't live without. So those are the things that we are going to talk about. Now, as far as taking questions, I could talk for hours. And so I want to use our time well. You are encouraged to ask questions. Put them over in the Q&A pane. So every time you see me looking over here, I'm looking at my whole Zoom interface. And I'll keep an eye on your questions and try and integrate them into what I'm doing. So drum roll, please. Our first one is interface tricks. And so these are tricks things that you can do when you are making transactions that make your life easier. So the first one that I want to talk about are built-in calculators. I sometimes see my clients reach over and they're using either the calculator on their phone or one of those old-fashioned 10 keys with the paper that goes rear. You don't have to go do your math somewhere else in QuickBooks and then go get the answer and copy and paste it or type it into QuickBooks. You can actually do your math right in your forms. I don't know if you realize it, but every rate field, every quantity field, every amount field is an actual calculator. And in order to use it, it follows PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So you can put parentheses in. Multiplication is an asterisk, division is a slash mark, and then the plus and minus key, and it will go through and do the math. And then when you press the tab key to jump to the next field, it will go ahead and insert the answer. So let me go play with that a little bit. Right now, I'm in the QBO sample file, the test drive file. And if you're not already familiar with this is your game changer right there, where there's a testing environment where you can play with QBO without going into real data. And so you can get to this at qbo.intuit.com/redir, like redirect /test drive, one word. And it will take you into Craig's design and landscaping where you can play around. So while I'm here, I'm going to head up to the invoices. And in this invoice, I want to start with the quantity field and the rate field and the amount field. And it doesn't matter which one I'm doing the work in. But let's say somebody ordered 3/4 of a gross of something. I could type 144 times 0.75. And then when I press tab, it will do the math and come up with 108. Or, maybe I charge $100, but I want to give them a discount, a 10% discount. So you can see here that I'm doing 100 minus 100 times 0.1. But when I hit tab, I get the 90. So any kind of math that you want to do in these fields, you can just use those calculators. So that is hoot tip number 1. Okay, the next one are the date shortcuts. So if you are putting in a date, if it's this year, you don't have to put in 22 at all. So you don't have to do the /2022 or /22. You can just leave it off and it will autofill. In fact, it will even, check this out. I'm going to erase the date right here. If I wanted to put in, like, let's say the 4th of this month, I don't even have to think 11/4. I can actually just type the number 4. And when I hit tab, it will automatically fill the month and the year for me. So you don't have to type one number and boop, there it all comes in. But there are also letters that you can use. If I want to get to today and tomorrow, or tomorrow and yesterday, if I do plus on the date, it'll go to tomorrow and then keep going forward by day. And if I want to get to yesterday and keep going back in time, I can hit minus, 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 and it will go forward and back. Then there's also letters that you can use that represent time frames. So if I want to get to today's date, I can type the letter T. And if I want to get to the 1st of the month, I can type the letter M. And if I want to get to the last day of the month, I can type the letter H, because H is the last letter of the word month. So M and H. It works for a week, but I don't know anybody who actually uses those shortcuts, because who can ever remember what Monday, what the date was on Monday. And then year works the same way. The letter Y will always take you to January 1st, and the letter R will always take you to December 31st. And then they also pile up. If you type it over and over and over again, it will go back, 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 or forward, forward, forward. So showing you the examples. Here I am in the date field, and I want to get to today's date. So I type the letter T, and it jumps to today. And if I want to go to yesterday, I can hit minus, and it goes minus, minus, minus. And if I want to go forward in time, I can go plus, 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 plus. If I want to go back to the beginning of this week, I'm typing the letter W right now, and so it's taking me to the 13th. And if I hit W again, it takes me to the 6th. But if I want to go back to January 1st, I type the letter M, because again, M is the first letter in the word month, and it takes me to the 1st. And if I keep hitting M, October 1st, September 1st, August 1st. And then when I go forward, like, I'm one of those people that I always have to sing 30 days have September, April, June, and November to remember what the last day of the month is. And I always get August wrong. I always think it has 30 days in it. So if I just type H, boom, takes me to the 31st, H, September 30th, H, October 31st, etc. And then, like I said, year. If I type Y, it goes to January 1st, type Y again, 2021, type Y again, 2020. And if I want to get to R, or the end of the year, I can just type R, and it will keep going to December 31st each year. So when I'm putting in dates, like if I'm doing an entry that I need to do for the last day of last year, I don't type 12/31/21. I type Y minus, and there I am. Or let me do it again. I type YYR, and it just jumps. So I love those shortcuts. I use those all the time.
I kind of want to like go, oh, wow. I hope everybody's like having the same reaction I am.
I hope so too. And people are welcome to, put in the comments if I tell you something that's a game changer. I love knowing that. I got a wow. Awesome. All right. Okay, so next up is the search box. Now, before I talk about this, I want to let you know that they are in the process of rolling out a new search. And so there's actually 2 simultaneous search environments right now. And so I'm going to kind of show you with the traditional search box. But with the search box, the first thing that I always show all my clients is that if you just did a transaction and you're like, oh, I need to go change something in there, you don't have to go like the way you did in desktop. You had to like go search for it or go open up another one of that and then use the back find. It was always hard to get back to what you just did. But in QBO, when you, let me get out of this. Okay, when you go up to the magnifying glass here, it brings up your 10 most recent transactions. So if you were just working on something, it just takes seconds to go back to that same transaction again. Super duper easy. You can also, if you're looking for dollar amounts, I like starting with a dollar amount because then it eliminates all of the matching invoice numbers or identifiers or things in the memo. So I always start it with a $sign. You can use the search not just for searching for individual transactions, but you can also use it to go to your customers and vendors and also to reports. Although in my demo, this doesn't work consistently in the test file. So I'm going to try it and it might not work, but trust me, it'll work on yours. So if I said, if I want to find the transactions for Bob's Burger Joint, if I just type in Bob's, first of all, I can then jump straight to the Bob's vendor. Let me go back to where I was. If I type in Bob and I type in 3 point, then it's going to give me the transaction that starts for $3.86. And now I can go straight to that one transaction. So you can use multiple criteria in that box to find exactly the transaction you're looking for. You can also run reports from here. So let's say I wanted to run a P&L by class. I can go ahead and just start typing profit. And then here's all the reports that say profit. And there's my P&L by class. So I can just jump straight to reports without having to navigate over to the report center and then wait for that to come up and go find the reports. I just roll them all straight from the search. So most of you will find that helpful. Okay, so there is the search box. Okay, next, I want to talk about Chrome tricks. Chrome is the preferred browser for using QuickBooks Online because Chrome's code is a little more streamlined than what you're going to find in Safari or Firefox or Edge. For those of you who are on Macs, I mean, we're a Mac house. In addition to teaching QuickBooks, my company teaches Apple products, but I do not like using Safari specifically because every time I type in a name or type in an email address, it tries to autofill out of my contacts, out of my own machine, not like my client's customer list. So that makes me crazy. So Chrome is the desired browser. So I'm probably preaching to the choir on this one. I never assume anything though, which is why I'm pointing out that incognito browsers in Chrome are essential equipment. And the what the incognito browser is a copy of Chrome that has no history, no cookies, no cache. It's all pure every single time. And if you're trying to do something in QuickBooks and it's not working, the very first thing you should do is go to an incognito window and try and replicate it. If you can replicate it, yes, you have a QuickBooks problem. If you can't replicate it, then you've got a browser issue and you should go clear your cache and your cookies, which I hate doing because that means I lose all my pre-built passwords, my memorized passwords, but sometimes you just gotta. And if you're having a problem and you're about to get on a call with support, the first thing they're going to ask you is, did you try it in incognito? So you should always just try it first. To get into an incognito window, that is up in your Chrome in the very upper right-hand corner, and depending where my picture is in this Zoom, it might be blocked out, but up in the upper right-hand corner, there's 3 dots. And when you click on the 3 dots, it says new incognito window. And I click on a new incognito and I get this dark, mysterious window. And then here I can test it out. Something else that's nice about incognito is it does act as a separate browser experience. And so when I'm working on my client files, I actually keep my QuickBooks Online for accountants open in an incognito window, and then I do all my client work in a regular window. And then that way I can have my QBO work center and all my practice management still up while I'm working on client files. So that's one trick for you. I'm going to go ahead and close that one. The next Chrome trick is opening up multiple windows and multiple tabs. And when you are opening up multiple tabs, this allows you to see multiple windows all at a time. I'm actually going to hold for a second. I've got a couple questions over here I want to answer. Kimberly is asking for the URL for the sample company. To know Siri app. Sorry about that. And so I'm going to type in the sample company address in the chat. So that's available for everybody. And Carol is asking, can you have more than one screen open in QBO Simple Start? So the things I'm about to show you are the yes on that one. Okay, so multiple windows. When I am working with accountants who are used to QuickBooks Desktop, their biggest complaint about QuickBooks Online is, well, I have to I'm in a window and then I have to close the window and go somewhere else and then go get that information and then close that and go back again. Well, no, you can have as many windows open as you want. And in fact, it's easier in a browser than it is in QuickBooks Desktop. You can have as many different tabs open for one company file as you want. And in fact, I rarely work in less than 4 of them. And there's a couple different ways that you can do this. One is if you, let's say I'm here in reports and I want to go to banking, if I right click on banking, or if you're on a trackpad, a 2-finger click, or if you're on a Mac, a command or control click, they all work. And here I choose open link in new tab. And then when I let go, what I'm doing stays. And then where I'm going shows up in another tab. So for me, all day long, I have up, and then I can rearrange the tabs. I have up the banking feed. I have up a search window. I have open a report, and then I have open whatever else I'm doing. And you can keep multi-purposing these tabs. That you've got the one that has the information you're looking for, you have the one that you're referencing, and then you have the one where you're going and doing the research. So have multiple tabs open definitely helps. Other ways of opening multiple tabs are you can also just if I want to go to the expenses center, I can actually just pick it up and drag it up to the tabs up at the top. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's a tiny little white arrow. And when I drop that, hang on a second. Please hold for a moment. Sorry about that. My parents are calling me and they're going through my do not disturb. Sorry about that. All right, so I just dragged up a tab. And so dragging up the tab means that I can just drag up as many tabs as I want and they'll open up there like that. And then you'll also notice that in my bookmarks bar, I have a whole lot of bookmarks available, and these will work no matter what company I'm in. So another path that you can take to having multiple tabs is simply when you are in a window that you like or a report that you like here's the AR aging summary, right? If I want to be able to get to the AR aging summary instantly from anywhere, I can now take the lock and drag it down to my bookmarks bar and let go. And now it came up as Craig's design, but I can right click on that and edit it and call this AR aging. And now I have a bookmark to AR aging. And what's super cool is that this will work across your clients too. If you ever see them, the URL and it has a number in front like C23, just erase that C23 or whatever that number is there, and then it will work across clients. So this will help with that. When you do have multiple tabs, oh, sorry, let me say that one more time. So another way of getting to your tabs is to hit the plus sign and then click on the bookmark that you need. When you do have multiple tabs open and you're working in two different tabs, if you change information in one tab, you do have to go to the other tab and then refresh the tab to wake it up and go pull in multiple information. If you don't touch a tab for 3 hours and it times out, it's going to look like you need to log in again, but you actually don't. You can just refresh the window. As long as you've been working in one active tab, you're still active. So if I'm working over here in bank transactions and this tab over here timed out, I just have to refresh it. Now, if you change customers, sometimes it will refresh into the new customer and sometimes it will actually knock you out. And so if I'm changing from client to client, I frequently will close all my tabs except the one and then build out the tabs again. Okay. Let's see. So questions that are coming up, QBO boots out when I open multiple tabs. Corinne, it shouldn't be booting you out if you have multiple tabs in the same company. Something's wrong with your browser in that case. Do the reports hold the date range? Yes, they do. People are loving the bookmarking reports. That is awesome. Okay, great. And now I'm going to go into another mind-blowing Chrome trick, and that is using the profiles or the Chrome accounts. So I just showed you that you can save a set of tabs, but a lot of the time those tabs, your clients have their own specific sets. So you can actually create separate Chrome environments for every single one of your clients. Up in Chrome, see that little circle that has my face, or again, it might be hiding behind my picture on the Zoom, but up in the corner, you'll have an icon up there that will either have your initial or an image or something. And when I click on that, you can have multiple profiles. And so that way you can have multiple profiles for all your different clients. So like, here's the profile that I use when I'm doing my book club class. I teach a QuickBooks Online book club. And so that has its own environment. And I can now customize the bookmarks just for this client. So what I'll do is I'll make one of these for every single client. I might even give them different colors. I'll put in the bookmarks for their banks, their reports, the things that I do for them all the time. And then with these, you also can open up multiple ones all at the same time, and they all act independently. So you can even open up multiple companies all at the same time. It's super cool. So a huge recommendation for using the persons. All right. And now let's talk about banking hacks. I am a complete bank feeds geek. I love the bank feeds. Bank feeds are either your best friend, saving you hours of time, or your absolute worst nightmare if they're not used correctly. I love the bank feeds because if I'm doing a new file setup and here it is November and they want to go all the way back for the whole year, I can actually use the bank feeds to do quick and dirty data entry to get caught up to speed with some of the tricks that I'm about to show you. And I can get a whole year set up in a couple hours. Which of course makes the client go, well, why am I paying you all this money for monthly bookkeeping? But there's a difference between sledgehammering data into categories and actually doing bookkeeping. And I know I'm preaching to the converted on that one. Okay. And so now let's talk about the bank feed options. There is a tiny little gear in the banking center that if you have not been paying close attention, you might have overlooked. And it has a lot of ways of customizing your bank feed environment. And it's really worth looking at. So I've got a slide here, but I'm going to do all of this live in product. And so I'm going to go head over to my tab that has the banking center on it. And where I'm looking is this little baby gear right here. Technically, it's called a grid gear because it's the gear above the grid, as opposed to the gear in the upper right-hand corner, the big gear. So, but I call it the baby gear. Everybody that I know calls it the baby gear. So here's the baby gear. And, Lori's asking, Lori, I'm going to come back to your question about the Chrome profiles. And okay, so the first option that you have here is check numbers. So if you would like to see a separate column about that has your check numbers in it, you can turn that on. Most of my clients don't write a whole lot of checks anymore, but if I am going through and categorizing clients' checks, sometimes I'll turn this column on just so I can organize the transactions by check number and then turn it off again. They give you an option here for turning off the payee, but that is my idea. No, I'm not going to say that. That is a big mistake. And the payees are crucial. This is a big PEBCAC of my clients. PEBCAC means problem exists between chair and keyboard. And these are the traps that people fall into. And I always make sure that my clients know that payees are not optional. In fact, up until about a year ago, the payee column used to say payee optional, which used to drive me crazy. Every client should have, every transaction should have a payee, although you can make some generic payees like restaurant, parking lot, gas station, because the bank detail will still have the actual name of the restaurant in it. And then that way you don't have a vendor list full of one-off payees. So I will make restaurant, and that's nice because then when I look at the restaurant list, I have one big list of every restaurant I ever ate at. So it's pretty cool. All right. Let's see. So payee boxes on and off, just leave that on. Okay, next one, show amounts in one column. This, I like having the spend and the receive in two separate columns, but I have a lot of clients who have really ultra low resolution monitors and they need every inch of real estate they can get. So this is handy for that. It puts all the amounts in one column with positive and negative. Not a fan, but it helps sometimes. So I'm going to turn that one back off. All right, next one, show the tags field. That will put tags inside every transaction or not, if you're using tags or not using tags. Editable date field, I almost always turn on. Editable date field is particularly handy when you've got checks because the check date comes in on the bank feed from the date that it cleared if the person is using the bank feed to do their data entry. And so you really do need the date the check was written, not the date it was cashed. And so if you have an editable transaction date, then you can make up for those things. Or maybe it was a rent check that the rent is supposed to be on the 1st of the month, but it didn't get cashed until the 21st. You can go in and make those adjustments right in the banking feed. Okay. And the next one, copy bank detail to memo. This is cool. Everybody ready for something super cool? Copy bank detail to memo. What that does is it takes whatever's in the bank detail and it copies it to the memo. And the reason why that is handy is because otherwise, if you did want to look at the bank detail, you would always have to open a transaction and click the little show bank details link in the upper right-hand corner. But by moving the bank detail to the memo, you now make it available in searches, in reports, you could like run a report and filter it for something inside the memo. So this is a really, really good one to turn on. Also, another reason why I like that one is when you're in QBOA and you use the books review option, there is a new tool that will allow you to bulk assign payees to transactions, but none of the fields that it shows you tell you what the transaction's actually for. So you still have to open it up and do it manually. But if you turn this on, now it does show the memo field. So when you're using that categorize the payee tool, you can actually see what the transactions were for. So this one is another game changer. So I always turn that one on. All right. The next thing in here is show suggested rules. That turns on the feature that if you categorize the same thing twice, it will suggest it in the future. I have clients where the rules are what's getting them into trouble and causing that worst nightmare situation. And so I do have some clients I turn this off on, but as a power user, I need it. I just train everybody not to accept any suggested rules without going in and editing it and actually filling in all the fields. Okay, show bank details. This one's related to the bank details memo, and I just want to show you a before and after before I click the shiny red button. When you look at the payee column, what it's actually doing is it's using its artificial intelligence to suggest what it might be, but we know the AI isn't always very so what I do is when I turn that option on here to show bank details, what it does instead is it changes the description column to a whoop, didn't mean to click that. Come on back. Okay, what it does is it changes the detail so that it's no longer artificial intelligence. It's the actual bank detail that came in from the bank. And so now you have it just right in front of you and you don't even have to click on every transaction to see it. So this is one that I do turn on. Okay. And enable suggested categorizations. That is the artificial intelligence part. And I do still leave it on. I just really emphasize to my clients that you're in charge of the bank feed, you as the bookkeeper or you as the client, that you can't think that the bank feed knows better than you. Every transaction, click on it, check the payee, check the category, make sure that you have details in the memos if you need it, and don't just trust that QuickBooks got it right and click add, because that's when it's going to get expensive to clean it up. Okay, last but not least here is that you can see 300 transactions all at once, which is really handy when I am doing a full year of data entry all at one time. Okay, then one other thing that is in here that I skipped is the turn on grouping. I'm going to go ahead and turn on grouping. And now what you can see is that it has grouped together all of my months, September's transactions, August transactions, July's transactions. And if I want, I can collapse them so that I can just look at the one that I need. Now, this is going to, let me actually turn off the grouping. No, yeah. All right. I want to show you two things together in one way. So when I'm doing batch entry here, instead of doing it by the date, I don't like the date because if I have 12 utility bills to put in, I don't want to see Xfinity in January and then see it again in February and see it again when I get down to March. Instead, I click on the header for the bank detail, and then it groups them all together by what they're for. And then I can go ahead and just use the bulk tools to bulk update an entire vendor all at one time. And so I'll be able to do all the Amazons at once, all of the bank charges all at once. It's a game changer. So I spend a lot of my time actually sorted by bank detail here instead of by date. Then when you couple that with turning on the grouping, now you can actually group it. So here's all of A1 Rental together. Here's all of Books by Bessie together. Here's all of Hicks Hardware together. So a lot of people will find this handy in managing the banking feed. Okay, if you have any questions about that, go ahead and put them into the Q&A. I did realize that there's a lot of chatter going on. So if you have something that you want to see specifically, make sure.
Yeah, and Alicia, there's a couple people that I had to basically tell them that was a little out of the scope for this webinar. But you're going to explain at the end of the webinar how people can get in touch with you and book your time or take one of your courses or that kind of thing, right? So I don't want people to think that we're being dismissive. It's just that there's so much ground to cover that the edge cases that some of you are bringing up we're not able to cover in this webinar. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Allison, because I am absolutely here to help, but there's only so much.
Yeah, they're awesome questions though. So don't please ask them and I'll just tell you whether we're going to cover them or not. That's how we'll have to manage it. Okay, thanks, Alicia.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so now another tip and trick is occasionally you're going to get that client who does a lot of commingling or they just don't understand what a tax deduction really is. Like the client that I had this week who was like, oh, well, in 2023, they made all meals deductible. And so he categorized everything on all his meals on his credit card as meals and entertainment, but they were all personal. And he's like, yeah, but they're 100%. I'm like, well, it's 100% of business meals, it has to be a business meal before you can take that 100%. So you're going to get people like that. So this technique is going to help with those folks. If you have somebody who is going through and has a lot of personal transactions, I like to make a multi-criteria rule called an owner draw rule, where it's money out of any bank account. And then I use, so the things that I focus on are, first of all, whoop, I didn't do that. There we go. And include the following. So here the drop down is for any or all. And so I make it an any, which allows me to make a list of possible criteria. And the bank text, usually that comes up as description, but that relies on the artificial intelligence. So when I make rules, I'm very OCD, and I change it to bank text, which then it has to match the actual text that came in from the bank. And then what I do is I'll copy out of the bank text each of the things that I have to classify as an owner draw. So in this example, I have Spotify, Starbucks, Netflix, and then I put in the owner's name, not the actual vendor name, and then their owner draw category. And that allows me to just take everything that they're doing and just shunt it over to owner draw. And sometimes I've got 3 of these: owner draw 1, owner draw 2, owner draw 3. You can only have 5 criteria in any one rule. So I wind up making multiples of these. But I'll also do this with gas stations, for example. So I'll have a rule called gas station. I'll include the following, make sure it says any. And if the bank text says Chevron, or the bank text says Shell, or the bank text says Gulf, then it'll make them all gas station fuel, or gas station owner draw, depending on your car situation with your clients. And so then I'll make a lot of these. And this is also the other technique that I use if I'm doing a whole year in quick, fast data entry. I'll go ahead and do this, and then maybe turn the rule off when I'm done, so that we can actually do the proper bookkeeping. Okay. And now the next one is a brand new feature where you can now see how you have categorized past transactions before, using this feature called categorization history. And in this sample file, I'm not sure if I can pull this off, but let me try. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one to A1 rentals. I can spell rentals, right? We get them added real quick. Okay, and that is equipment rental. Okay, so I've got that one classified. Now, when I look at the next one, I now have a categorization history. And when I click on that, it now shows me all of the different ways that I've categorized it in the past. And I can put them in order of either most to least used, or the most recent to oldest. And so this is really handy when you're coming up with like Amazon, because now you can see all the different places that it has gone for Amazon or Office Depot or whatever. So I love this, because before that categorization history link was there, I had the bank feed up over here, and I had my vendors list open over in the next tab. And then I would have, I would be looking them up simultaneously, where, okay, here's the vendor, and then I would go over to the vendors and look up the vendor. Now I don't have to do that. So I'm really excited about that. All right, Michelle is asking, is there a trick if the bank feeds stop bringing in transactions to the for review, even with a manual update? The bank balance shows 0, but the check register balance is correct. If you wind up having any big bugs with the feeds, my actual recommendation is to first make sure you've accepted everything so they're all empty, because you might lose the matches, and then go into the bank by clicking on the pencil and edit the account info, and then go through and disconnect all of the accounts. Not just, if you have multiple accounts at one bank, don't just disconnect the one that's not working, take them all down, and then reconnect them all. You'll log in one new time and then remap everything, and that usually brings up the the mapping, and then you can reconnect everything, and that should fix your banking feed. The trick is when people try and fix it this way, they only take down one account. You got to completely disconnect all accounts to get them back up again. Somebody asked about the categorization, and I did just do that, where once you have a transaction in, there's a categorization history link, and you click on categorization history in the banking feed, and now you can see it, and then pick which category you want to assign. All right. I think I did, I did this one already, where you can sort by any of your column headers. And while we have been doing some sorting and filtering hacks, I want to do some more sorting and filtering hacks in some other places. And so in the reconciliations screen, have a lot of different little tricks that I do here. So the one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that the reconciliation screen, you can also sort by all of your different column headers, and it is so handy to do. So let me head into a reconciliation. Now, this is not a real reconciliation. I'm not trying to get a $0 balance. I'm just throwing in some numbers to get us up and running. I'm not going to do that much though. And here we go. Okay, so when you are in the reconciliation screen, then one thing that you can do is you can filter by payments, and now it just shows everything in the payments column and there's no deposits showing, or you can filter it by the deposits and there's no payments to worry about, or you click back on all to see them again. And then the next thing is that some bank accounts will give you a cleared date column. I don't see it in all of them for some reason, and I have not been able to figure out why some and not others. But one of the things that I will do is, if the difference does not equal 0, the first thing that I'll do is click on the cleared date, or I'll click on the cleared date. And then I'll go look at the bottom, and I'll make sure that some of these didn't clear in the following month, in which case I can just go ahead and uncheck them. So sorting by clear date is really handy. Then when I do get to 0, you're not done reconciling. And a lot of business owners get this wrong. They think, oh, I've got 0, I'm reconciled. But reconciliation has 2 stages. One is getting to 0, and the other one is handling everything else that's not checked off. And so what I do when I reconcile, and what I train even my clients to do if they're doing the reconciling, is after I get to 0, and obviously this is a fake file, so I'm not going to get there. What I do is I click on the payment column, and then that groups them by dollar amount. And whether this is looking for unchecked transactions that might be duplicated, or maybe your difference isn't 0 and you're looking for duplicates, by doing this, I can go say, oh, wait, 1999, 1999. Oh, those have different dates. They're different transactions. 1380, 3840, 3850. Oh, those are different transactions. But I will very frequently find duplicates this way. One of the problems that comes in a lot is if you're using the receipt capture and people are importing the receipts and then categorizing the receipts, is that the receipts frequently get classified either to the wrong bank account or the wrong dollar amount, or everything with the receipt is right, but they didn't match it to what's in the banking feed. So you have one that's been manually categorized that did match the banking feed, and the one that actually has the receipt attachment down unchecked below it. And a lot of the time, that's the one that I want. And so I wind up deleting the one that matched the banking feed, doing that for everything, going back to the banking feed and rematching everything, and then refreshing the reconciliation so they're all checked off all beautifully. And so that's what I frequently wind up doing during reconciliation cleanups. And filtering or sorting by the dollar amounts is a lifesaver. Okay, next up, do I really only have 15 minutes left? Okay, I want to do more. All right, so another technique that I want to show you is your browser's find command. So I'm not talking about the search up in the corner of with the magnifying glass. I'm talking about the find that's in your Chrome or in your browser. And if you're on a PC, you just press Control F. If you're on a Mac, it's Command F. And what that allows you to do is actually search what's on the page. And so if I'm looking through this long list of dollar amounts here, and I need to find all of my, like I'm looking for $100 transaction, again, I'll do Command F or Control F, and it brings up a find box up in the upper right-hand corner. And I'll type in 100, and now it'll show me, oh, you've got 3 different examples of 100 on my screen. And now I can go through them and find, oh, there's the transaction that I wanted, and check it off or uncheck it off. So this find is really handy. It's literally anything that's on your page. I also love it when I'm looking at the PDF of the statement and I'm trying to find out why my reconciliation doesn't match. I'll go, like if I'm off by, $54, I'll head over to my PDF, do the find thing, type in 54 and see if that transaction is on there, if it's missing from my QuickBooks. So the find is royally helpful. Okay, another overlooked feature is filtering the checking register, that you can find like just about anything in a checking register by using its filters. So let's head over to the register for this sample checking account. And the feature that I'm talking about is this little funnel up here on the upper left-hand side. And you might never have clicked on it, but check this out. You can find things by memo. You can find things by reference number. You can search for dollar amounts above or below a certain dollar amount, or all the transaction of an exact dollar amount, and it filters the register for it. I will also use this, for example, to let's look for uncleared checks, right? So I can say, I want to find all of the checks that have no reconciliation status. And so not just not reconciled, but no status, which means it hasn't matched the banking feed. And then when I click apply, now I can see all of my checks that never got cashed, and they're all right here. And I can print it out in a report or do whatever I want with it. So really just powerful, powerful. Then I'll clear the filter and view all again. Other things that you can do here is you can filter your entire check register. Instead of hundreds of pages long, you can give it a really short date range and just look at it a page or two at a time. You can also just filter for everything to a particular payee. And what's nice about this is you can do any combination of them. So I could find like all of this payee for this dollar amount that has been not been reconciled, and pull them up. So definitely make use of the filters in the bank register. They're very handy. All right, next up, recurring transactions. The reason why I'm bringing recurring transactions into this as a hack is, first of all, I just need to make sure that you all know that you can make recurring sales receipts that go ahead and just run charges on behalf of your customers. So you do have to be using QuickBooks Payments in order to do it. And then you could take maybe it's your monthly invoicing. Instead of using invoices, use a sales receipt. Get their authorization so that you have their credit card number and their permission. And then you can go ahead and schedule sales receipts that will run the charge and send emails automatically on the first of the month or whatever day of the month you want. And then you don't have to do anything at all for your AR. The money just shows up in your bank account and you don't have to do anything. It is so handy. And so that's my magic money. Is I have 75 people on my wholesale QuickBooks billing account, and I don't build them into the fees. I have them pay me individually. So every time I put somebody on my wholesale program, I just go ahead and make this recurring sales receipt, and just every month, all 75 clients get their invoices, they get their receipts, and I have no work to do. Okay, another reason why recurring transactions are really helpful is transaction templates. You can create pre-made transactions that you can call on anytime as needed. I have, for example, a contractor who does bathroom remodels. So we made him an estimate that had line by line all of the things that he wanted to put on it, and had boilerplate text that he could just go and amend the descriptions and put in the dollar amounts for that job. And then that way he doesn't have to recreate the estimate every single time he does a new job. And he also doesn't have to open up an old one from a different customer and forget to copy it and then make all the changes to it and completely break their old transactions. So anytime I do a complex transaction that they're going to need again, I will save it as an unscheduled recurring transaction, and then it just gives us a list of templates to work off of. This is also super handy for job costing payroll, for example, or your end of year allocations. Like if you're one of those people where you run a year end report with all of the classes and they're all in unspecified and you need to break them out across classes. I keep a year end journal entry that I use one time a year, but it's really a lot nicer than having to go through line by line by line and rebuild it. So definitely use your recurring transactions in creative ways. All right, next I want to talk about some different ways of automating your communications. So one is that there is a new invoice reminders feature, and what this will allow you to do is send reminders before an invoice is due, when it's due, or after it's due. The problem with using this is you can't pick and choose. It's on for everybody. And that's been a serious limitation for me really implementing this, is because I have a bunch of invoices that I just have for informational purposes that I'm not expecting them to pay yet. And if I turn on reminders for everybody, it does them all. But I still want to show that this is a super cool feature. And so anytime I am in an invoice, I can see the reminders there, but I can also get to them through it's not actually there. Where did it move to? Sometimes you'll see reminders show up in this window. I'll just go to the chart of accounts. Oh, here's a hack. It's not in here, but I just thought of it, so I'm going to add it in. Did you know you can click on the company name and go to their settings? Ooh. Everybody tell me if you liked that one. That one was pretty cool. Okay, so just click on the company name. There you go in the settings. Now, where I was heading into sales so that I could do the reminders message. And so, thanks everybody. I just got called a genius. That's fantastic. Thank you. So in the reminders, here you turn on the reminders and then you have up to 3 different reminders, so you don't have to use all 3, but when I turn any one of them on, I can specify the date range before or after, and I can put in the boilerplate text, and then that will, so this is like 3 days before it's due, it will go ahead and remind the client to pay. And then if they still didn't pay, reminder 2 is set up on the due date as a reminder that the invoice is due. And then there's a third one that's set up by default after it's due. But you can totally customize these however you want. Okay, so there's that one. And the next one is sending reports. You can actually put your reports on an email schedule. I don't do this at the first of the month. I always do this in the middle of the month, because some months it takes me a couple weeks to get everybody reconciled. And so I know I'm safe by the 17th of the month. And so I have all mine to go mid-month. But what you can basically do is on any custom report or any group of reports, you can set an email schedule. My computer's going crazy. Crazy, I tell you. All right, send reports. Here we go. So if I head into my reports, there are management reports, and these are these gorgeous reports that if you haven't played with these, definitely come in and play with these. It looks like you did desktop publishing to send your clients all of their reports, and you can totally customize this. Now, I don't have enough time today to go into how to do those, but what I want to show you is that if you edit the company overview, one of the options that you have, I'm not finding it. Where did it go? Let me do it from somewhere else instead. All right, sorry, I'm going to quickly customize a report and show it to you that way. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just making a customized report, profit and loss, all dates, so that I can show you what I do with this. There's several different routes in. This is just fastest for me right now. So when I look at this report and I go into edit from here, this one gives me a schedule. And so I can set an email schedule and I can tell it that I want this to do it every month on the 17th of the month. And then I can put in a list of email addresses right here, put in the message that I want, and attach it as an Excel file down at the bottom as well. And then this will just automatically send this report to these people on this day without you having to lift a finger. And you get some gorgeous reports when you do this with the management reports. All right. I know I'm fire hosing you. You will get the replay of this or I think the PDF of it, and the course is on Grove as well. So here's another favorite one, my backdoor links that reclassified transactions. You probably know it and love it as a bookkeeper, but they're you can get to this for any client. So what I can do is when you're in a client file, not QBOA, so you can like show this to your clients, you erase everything that comes after app/ at the end, and then type in reclassify -transaction, and then hit enter, and it will open up the reclassify tool, even if you're not in QBOA, which is just, wow, right? So handy, so handy. And if you don't know about reclassified transactions, this is gold. Definitely go ahead and try this. Try this at home. All right. And then another backdoor link. When I am doing an import from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, a lot of the time in QuickBooks Desktop, the billable check mark was on by default, and every expense over the last 15 years was checked as billable because they thought like, oh, I'm being billed for this, not I'm billing my customer for this. And so I'll do conversions and I'll wind up like $15 million and 300,000 unbilled activities. And the way that you get rid of those is you can like make an invoice for each customer, pull in all the unbilled expenses, save it, and then void it. But then you still have to do that by customer. What this tool does is you can change the end after apps/ to manage billable expense. And then it will ask you for, keep doing that, sorry. Boom. It will give you this tool, although the tool is not on the menu. And sometimes the programmers forget that when they are doing some back-end work, they forget to reinstate this. And I have to call them up and say, hey, I need it again. And they go, oh, it's Alicia. And then we go get manage billable expense put in again. And yes, it's working. And so here, if you have unbilled expenses that are never going to bill, you can put in today's date. I just press the letter T and I hit save, and it will wipe out all of the unbillable check marks and they will all just go away. You'll never see them again. All right. My last tip before we wrap up is the problem you're having with QuickBooks Online, or is it you, or is it the system? If you go to quickbooks.statuspage.io, there's a tool there that will tell you if they are down. So quickbooks.statuspage.io, and now it will show you if the systems are operational, how's QBO doing in different countries, how's self-employed doing in different countries, how's desktop doing in different countries, and then it will show you past incidents. The last time it was down was that we had a login issue on November 1st. And so, you might remember that. And so this will go through and tell you the history when it is down. Now, what's cool about this, another thing that's cool about this, let's get back to current, is that if something is down and it's showing you red and telling you that there is a problem, first of all, you know you can go get a cup of coffee or go for a walk and take care of yourself. And you can also subscribe to the updates and then put in your email address, and they will email you when it has been resolved. And so the URL for this is quickbooks.statuspage.io, which is one of the tech extensions. All right, so that is my fire hose of hacks for you. And so if you haven't met me before, my name is Alicia, and I have a vast QBO training platform at my website at royalwise.com. And we call it the OWLS. It's the on-demand web-based learning solutions. And I do training all the way from never seen it before, all the way up through advanced certification. I do have a class coming up on how to use payroll inside QuickBooks, and you do get CPE credit for attending. And so if you go to royalwise.com, you'll be able to find that out. This course that I just did is on Grove, and so you can watch it in slow motion and repeat it over and over and over again until it finally.
And share it with your team. That's the other advantage of being on the Grove, is that you can share it with the team. Yeah.
So thank you all for
thank you so much, Alicia. Oh my gosh, that hour just went so fast. I think everyone will agree. It just flew. So for next steps, everybody, we will be sending out an email and tomorrow. And in it, you will have instructions on how to access this recorded webinar, this particular recording. Plus, I will be giving Alicia's slides as a PDF, as well as any other resources that she gives me. And we're going to put it as a post on the Grove. So it won't be an attachment in the email. It'll be a post on the Grove. So watch for the email, create your free account, come in. You'll be able to look at you'll be able to talk to Alicia. You know, she'll come in a few times a week and answer questions. You'll also be able to take her course, as well as learn and grow together in various other different ways. So thank you, Alicia, so much for this. I really, really appreciate it. And for those of you that need more advanced training, please check out royalwise.com. And Alicia and Jamie have put a lot of effort and energy into their training, and it's tried and true. And so well worth your time and your money. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And we're going to call it a wrap. Bye now.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.